now on Facebook. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is our rapid response public testimony training because we do have in-person hearings Monday and Tuesday, sort of these snap hearings. They didn't give us a lot of time to prepare, but we are here to prepare you as best we can, to show you the proposed maps, to go through the issues that we've seen in them, and to give you all some space to figure out what you would like to see about the maps and give you the information you need to put together a really good, effective comment for the hearings that are coming up, or if you want to comment online, or if you want to do both.
Yeah, and well, before we jump in, I just want to double check it. Is everyone who's here, can we get a thumbs up if you can hear both me and Leica and see the slide that's up? Okay, great. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I don't know, Leica, did you introduce yourself?
No, I don't think I did. So my name is Leica Shupek. I'm the North Carolina State Director for All Online.
And I'm Bree Bro. I'm the North Carolina Digital Organizer with All on the Line. And we are going to jump right in here. It's great to see so many new and friendly faces. Thank you all so much for being here. So as Leica mentioned at the top, for folks who are just joining, we are here today to prepare folks to give public comments on the maps that have been proposed. A little just quick agenda. We're going to do some introductions really quickly in the chat. We're going to find out where people are joining from. We're going to go over just a little bit of an overview of kind of what's happened and where we are and why this is so important. And then we'll dig into the maps, including, so we'll look at some maps all together, and then we'll break into regional breakout rooms so that y'all can really look at your own, the particular maps, parts of the maps that you will want to comment on. And then we'll go over some next steps. So thank you all so much for being here again. Just for folks who are new, All on the Line, we are All on the Line North Carolina. We are a 501c4 campaign dedicated to helping folks engage in the redistricting process and get fair maps for North Carolina. And that's why we're here. If folks would, who are with us in the Zoom, well, first of all, let me say, if you aren't muted, go ahead and stay on mute unless you need to unmute to ask a question. We'd recommend putting questions in the chat if you have questions as we're going through this, and we'll do our best to get to them. Please go ahead and also in the chat, put your name and your location where you're joining from today. And if you are part of any organization, another organization that you want to lift up into the chat, that would be great. Just for another note for folks who might just be joining us, this meeting is being recorded. We are live on Facebook. We would love for you to be on camera and see your faces, but know that if you do, that you might be visible on Facebook. And then as we are going through this, put questions in the chat. We'll do our best to get to them. If we miss it, feel free to put it back in. And we will also have some time at the end. We'll stay on and answer questions for folks. Now, the next thing, and Leica, you might actually have to launch the poll because I think you're the host. But we have a quick poll. It's helpful for us to set up the breakout rooms for later if we kind of get a sense of how many people are joining from which region of the state. So if you can, we're going to launch a poll in just a second. And if you can just
Bree, I think you are actually the host.
Oh, I'm the host, so I have to do it. Okay.
You could switch to me if you want me to do
it.
it.
Well, you know what? It looks like I didn't create this poll, so we're going to have to just look at the sorry, I thought I had created it because I had used a template, but apparently I didn't. So we're going to skip the poll and just put in the chat, if you would, your location, and we'll check that out. So sorry about that. We're going to keep moving. All right. Okay, so we're going to quickly just talk a little bit about, why we're here. Public comments are absolutely essential to getting the fairest maps that we can. We don't have a lot of time. We found out that, these hearings were going to be on Monday and Tuesday. We found that out last week, and we got the maps. We finally saw the final draft maps last week. So, we're here to help y'all look at the maps, understand them, and be prepared to make effective comments. Quickly, just kind of want to go over what we've seen so far in this process, so we all know how we got to today. It's been maybe 8 weeks now since they passed the criteria to draw the maps. We had issues with the criteria. They didn't even, say that they're trying to draw maps that fairly represent the people of North Carolina. They used really vague language, and they're doing things that a lot of folks, find really problematic, like taking incumbent addresses into account, doing things, they said over and over again when questioned about why they're doing things a certain way, they said just because it's the way it's always been done. And also they're not using racial or partisan data, but without the correct parameters around that, it sort of gives the veneer of fairness without actually the substance, and they have no way of showing that the maps have partisan fairness or aren't, going to harm racial groups. So we've also had 13 public hearings. The public hearings were, at inconvenient times and in locations for a lot of people. Folks who work, during the day had a hard time getting there. And when we saw the draft maps, it became pretty clear that they were not taking a lot of the public comment, the public feedback that they got into account. So there's been kind of a theater of transparency around these maps, including when they've been drawing them. They've been drawing them in public, and that is better than what we've had in the past. But they're doing things like they're in a room at the legislature drawing maps on a computer. You can watch, which is great. But they're doing things like getting printouts and then going into a back room and then coming back and changing the maps. So it's not, we don't feel confident that what's happening is truly transparent, and it's certainly not truly inclusive of the input that they're getting. All maps that have been, that we think are really going to be considered have been drawn by chairs of the committee. So it's 4 people. And then, there is some good news. Folks on this call and a lot of our volunteers and partners have been really pushing for more hearings after the draft maps came out. And we thought we were just going to get one hearing in person in Raleigh. That has been improved upon with that. There are going to be hearings in other places people can go in other parts of the state to make their voices heard, as well as some virtual hearings, which is a big thing that people asked for during the public comment hearings before. So that's great. They are, we are getting some things that we wanted because people are standing up and making these requests. And so, what we're doing is working. This does matter. We can get some improvement by making comments, but it does look like we're having a lot of the same outcomes in terms of the maps that we're seeing that we've seen before, and we'll get into those maps in a little bit. So just wanted to kind of go over some of that. Also, we just want to say, thank you for being here, because public comments really do matter. They are essential to the end result of getting fairer maps. A lot of, I hear a lot of frustration from people sometimes about, will this matter? Are they going to listen? But the truth is that, the people who are drawing the maps have a lot of power, and power sees nothing without a demand. So if we don't push back against what they're trying to do, then we can't expect to get better maps. So it's important to be here. It's important to get clear on how the maps the draft maps don't serve us or our communities, and to express that to the committee very clearly and in a public comment so that it becomes part of the public record. Also, it is not out of the question that changes could still be made. It would not be at all surprising that they would take some comments and make some changes. The more specific we can be, the better, I think, to actually getting changes made. But there is a chance to change some of the maps. And even if we only get small changes that improve the maps for a couple of communities, that's still better than nothing. And we just don't know. You won't get for what you don't ask for. So we are going to ask for what we want very clearly, and we will go from there. And if they do, it's also important to make very clear comments, because if they do pass maps that divide communities, that are clearly, there for partisan advantage, we don't want them to be able to say that they didn't know any better. So these comments become part of the public record. It's important to document that the people who drew these maps had this information before they passed the maps, and that they willfully ignored it if that is in fact what happens. Okay, so we're gonna, before we get into actually looking at maps, want to give a little bit of a preview about what the next couple of, days, week is gonna look like. And then we'll talk a little bit about what to be thinking about in terms of a public comment before we actually are looking at the map, so you can have that in mind. So the public comment sessions are happening tomorrow and Tuesday. There are in-person public comments tomorrow in Raleigh at 3 o'clock, and also at 2 remote locations, Wilmington and Lenoir, which is in Caldwell County, also at 3 tomorrow. The signups for all of those are on the NC Ledge website. They are limited, all of the in-person locations are limited to 25 speakers each, I believe, is my understanding. And then there's also a public hearing that is virtual at 5:30 tomorrow, and that you can also sign up for on the website. Then on Tuesday, there's another in-person public hearing in Raleigh at 3 o'clock, as well as a remote location in Greenville and in Charlotte. So that information is on the NC Ledge website. We'll also share out how you can sign up in an email that will go out after this call. The virtual hearings are limited to 30 speakers. And it is really important. We are really encouraging people, if you are able to show up in person at a hearing, to do that. Even if you don't plan to speak, showing up and showing that there are people whose voices need to be heard is important. So if you're able to show up, if you have the capacity and you feel safe to show up at an in-person hearing, we would encourage you to do that. We need to show that this process, that people's voices are being silenced by the way that they're conducting this. Then after the hearings, we expect that there will be a vote in the committee, likely sometime later next week. That's not definite yet, but that's what we expect. And then there will be a vote in the full legislature. The entire legislature has to vote to pass the bills that are essentially the maps. The maps will be put into bill form, and then they'll be passed through the full legislature. And we expect that to happen probably the following week or the first week of November. Anything you want to add to that, Leica, that I forgot? Or
Yeah, someone just brought up in the chat that basically the announcements for these hearings have said that Monday is for congressional maps and Tuesday is for state legislative maps. First of all, I just want to say that this is just generally ridiculous, because Monday and Tuesday have different geographic locations, and it's not like people in Greenville shouldn't be allowed to comment on congressional maps. That's just ridiculous. Also, just on a practical level, they're not going to stop you from commenting on the maps that you want to comment on in the first place. That's not really how these hearings work. So don't feel like you have to adhere to that. So I think that that's one thing. And then people were asking where on for the locations, like the more specific locations. I think we can probably give those towards the end. I know that Wilmington is, it's, I think at the Lumina Theater, I think is called on
it's the Lumina Theater at UNCW, which is, I believe there might be 2 different Lumina theaters in Wilmington.
Yeah. And then the one in Lenoir is at the Broyhill Center. It's not on the Caldwell County Caldwell Public Community College campus. It is like 5 miles down the road. It's like the big Broyhill Center, which is like a sort of civic community center. Greenville, I think, is going to be at ECU. I don't. And
it is at ECU. It's at there's a
ECU on Hart Drive. I know where that one is.
Thanks, Dr. Brenda. And then in Charlotte, I believe it is at Central Piedmont Community College again.
If you spoke, and I'm not sure about the Greenville one, but I know all the other ones are at the same location as
Greenville one was in the Greenville one. I think that we went to was at the community college, not at ECU before.
Yeah, so that one has changed, but all the other locations are the same as the location where the previous hearings were held.
And then Diane asked if we'll be sending a summary out. We'll do a follow-up email to everyone who's on this call or signed up for this call without all the information that we are giving you all now.
Yes. Okay, so before, like I said, we're going to go into actually looking at the maps in a minute, but we want to go ahead and share these best practices so that you can be thinking, as you're looking at the maps, you can be thinking about what your comment might look like, what you want to say about the map. So The number one thing to know is if you are going to be giving in-person testimony or in the virtual hearings, you have a max of 2 minutes. So you have to plan what you're going to say to fit it under 2 minutes. I know from experience, it's very difficult to do that. So you can make, and we also recommend that whatever you submit or whatever comments you make in the hearings, you also submit into the online portal, and you can expand on your comments in the ones you make in the online portal. Or if you want to comment on multiple parts of the map, you could do that in the portal, but you need to really focus your comments onto what you want to say in 2 minutes for the hearings. It's probably also best on that note to try to keep your comments, if you make comments at the hearings, pick which issue is most important to you, which map is most important to you, or you have the biggest issues with, and stick to that for your in-person testimony, and then make longer comments into the portal. The next thing to think about is being really clear in your comments which map you're talking about. So we are going to be looking at, there are 5 different congressional maps that have been, I believe there may even be a couple more, but I think it's 5 that have been actually.
Yeah, I think at this point there may be more than that.
There's more than that. So there are several congressional maps that have been put out there. We are going to be talking about the ones that we believe are the most likely to actually be proposed and potentially passed. But be clear, and they're all labeled. So just be clear about which map you're talking about. Or if you're just talking generally about the congressional maps kind of as a group, say that. Or say, I'm talking about the North Carolina House map or the North Carolina Senate map, so that they know which map you're referring to in your comment. Also in your comments, you're going to want to be as geographically specific as possible. So if you are somewhere where there is an issue with the map that pertains to where you live, talk about that. If you have, I think a lot more people are probably going to comment on the congressional maps because they've been out for longer. More people have had time to analyze them. A lot of people pay more attention to the congressional level just in general. If you can look at the Senate and House maps and make comments on those, encourage you to do that because they're going to get less attention, but they're just as important. And also they are more geographic. They're even more specific to local geographies and local communities. And then just remember to, speak from the heart, talk about your community, talk about how where you live will be affected by these maps to the extent possible. It's also okay if you don't have an issue with the maps specific to where you live or your district. It's okay to talk more broadly about the problems that you see in the maps, but do be as geographically specific as you can. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Leica now, and we're going to go over we're going to look at the maps together, and then we're going to break into breakout groups and look at, and we have some maps on a Google Drive that we're going to share with y'all, and we'll look at them. We'll look at them in smaller groups.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Over to you, Leica.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and go to the next slide? All right. So how many maps do we actually have? Like Brie was saying, I think last week we had 5 congressional maps. We may at this point have 6. But we have 3 congressional maps that have actually been drawn by the chairs of the committee, and 2 or 3 maps that have been drawn by Democrats. And then we have one full state Senate map that's been drawn by the chairs of the committee, and then one full state House map also drawn by the chair of the committee. I believe Democrats have drawn some particular counties in the state legislative maps, but they have not drawn a whole state legislative map as far as I can tell. However, I'm just going to say today we are focusing on the maps that have been drawn by the chairs of the committee because they are the chairs of the committee. They are in charge. They are part of the majority. Their maps are the maps that are the most likely to actually come to a vote to actually pass, and therefore we think that they're the most important to comment on. And so that's what we'll be talking about today, and that's what we will be showing to you when we share a Google Drive later with all the different maps that you can look at. Great, next slide, please. All right, so what are some things that are going on with these maps? So looking at the maps that we've seen from the committee leadership and those maps again that are most likely to pass, we've seen a number of problematic elements. One of the main ones is they dilute the voices of diverse populous urban areas and communities of interest. So, I mean, especially looking at the congressional maps, we have seen large populous counties like Wake and Mecklenburg County and Guilford County being divided up more times than they need to be for population reasons. So, for instance, in the congressional maps, Mecklenburg needs to be divided into 2 districts because it's so large to fit into a congressional district. We have seen maps where all of the maps that are proposed by committee chairs divide Mecklenburg into either 3 or even 4 different congressional districts. Similarly, Wake County only needs to be in 2 congressional districts. All of the congressional maps that we've seen from committee chairs divide it into 3 districts. This is totally unnecessary, doesn't represent the people there. Those kinds of splits are clearly trying to dilute the voices of these urban areas and take parts of them and pair them with much more rural areas that don't share the same interests. Second of all, we've seen that maps basically ignore public testimony. So I think something that we've talked about a lot, if you ever follow us on social media, when we were going through the public hearings back in September, over half of the people at the public hearings in Robeson and Cumberland, in Fayetteville, asked for a Sandhills congressional district that was centered on Cumberland County, that included the counties of Robeson, Cumberland, Hoke, and Moore. We have not seen a single congressional map from the committee chairs that includes that. All of the congressional maps that we have seen from the committee chairs split up that area, sometimes into as many as 3 different districts. All those counties go into 3 separate districts or more. And so clearly they're ignoring public testimony. Similarly, we got a lot of testimony in the triad from people saying that they wanted the cities of the triad to be kept together, that they wanted Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point to be kept together in a congressional district as they are now. All of the congressional district maps that we've seen from committee chairs split up those areas into many different districts. All of those cities are split into different congressional districts in the maps we've seen from committee chairs. So clearly they're not actually listening to the things that people have asked for. In fact, they're doing the opposite. Then third, they manipulate the maps for partisan advantage. So, we know that North Carolina is a 50-50 state. We know that every time we have a statewide election, it's right on that line. It's always very close. However, all the congressional maps we've seen have either 9, 10, or even 12 Republican seats in them. That's grossly disproportionate to what the city is like, to what the state is like. I think that a lot of times you hear, well, Democrats just live in dense places. These maps are splitting up those dense places. So that's clearly not the issue. That's not why we're ending up with this super disproportionate congressional split between the parties. And so clearly these maps are being manipulated for partisan advantage. And that is, we believe that that is wrong. And then the last characteristic is maps favoring politicians over people. So like Bree noted, in the criteria, they said that they were allowed to consider incumbent addresses. We believe that when you consider incumbent addresses and you protect incumbent seats, you are building in gerrymanders, because if the map is already gerrymandered and you're protecting the people who are already in office, to some degree, you have to be building in those gerrymanders. Not only that, but they are creating new advantages for politicians who aren't even in that particular office yet. So for instance, it's been rumored that House Speaker Tim Moore wants to run for a congressional seat. All of the congressional maps that we've seen from committee chairs have drawn him his own congressional seat. So even though we have a new congressional district this time around, and even though our urban areas have grown a ton, Charlotte area has grown a ton, especially the Wake area has grown a ton, especially that sort of triangle area. It's around Southern Wake, been tons and tons of growth there. It would make sense for the new congressional district to be there, but instead it's in Cleveland County, which it's centered on Cleveland County, which is lost population because that happens to be where Tim Moore lives. And so clearly they are favoring politicians over people in drawing these maps. They're trying to protect people that they like, instead of actually drawing districts that make sense for how the state has grown and where people actually live. Right. So I talked about this already, but we're going to show you some actual examples. So this is sort of diluting the votes of large urban areas. So this is one of the congressional maps that splits Mecklenburg County into 4 different districts. And you can see the split in there is really weird, really messy. There are lots of strange tentacles. There's like a claw in the hair. And it takes all of those areas and pairs different parts of Mecklenburg, which obviously very urban area, with much, much more rural areas. So that reddish district that you see on the west, that's the one that goes out to Cleveland County. That's the sort of Tim Moore district that I was just talking about. The northern part of Mecklenburg is going all the way up into Iredell, Catawba, Lincoln, obviously much more rural areas. There's that purple district that's going all the way up to Davidson County. And then there's sort of the heart of Charlotte has been cut out into that green district that goes all the way to Richmond County and part of Moore County. And so, clearly they're intentionally diluting this urban area. This is the most egregious example, but every single congressional map we've seen from chairs splits this county at least 3 times and does something very similar. All right, next slide. Again, same thing is happening in Wake. And so this is the way that one of the congressional maps splits Wake. We see really similar splits in Wake County across all of the congressional maps from the chairs. And so, this is not necessary. Wake does not need to be split this many times for population reasons. Clearly something is being done to basically dilute the votes of the people who live in this area. All right, next slide. So again, just other instances of this happening. This is another one of the congressional maps. On the left, you can see in the Triad area, basically High Point is being taken out and put in a different district that goes south. Most of Winston-Salem's being taken out and put with another district that goes west. Greensboro is being kind of scooped out of Guilford and put with a bunch of rural northwestern counties. And then another part of Guilford County is also going with some like other more rural counties. And so like there's the area is being completely dissected and split up. Similarly, like you can see, this is one of the congressional maps with New Hanover. They are kind of cutting up that whole area where Wilmington is and putting it in one district that's separate from the rest of New Hanover County. Next slide. This is actually sort of the follow-up. There's these districts that don't respect communities. So I showed you before the way that Wake County was split into 3 districts. And you can see that Southern Wake district, that's yellow. It goes all the way to Davidson County. It goes all the way to Davidson County. It goes up into Alamance County. It takes in all of Randolph County. I don't personally live in Southern Wake. I live close to Southern Wake. I personally don't live there. I don't really believe, though, that the people who live in that area feel that they have the most stuff in common with people who live in Davidson County and that they share enough interests that they should be in a congressional district that looks like this. And so this is the kind of stuff that they are doing because they are not listening to people and what people want for their communities. Next slide. This is another super absurd example. So this is another one of the congressional maps. And it also, as you can sort of see, splitting Wake 3 ways. And this one is taking parts of Southern Wake and putting them in a district that goes all the way down to Onslow County. I believe Onslow County is where North Topsail Beach is. So you can imagine that I don't think that the people who live in Southern Wake feel like the people in North Topsail Beach have the exact same interests in them, that they should share a congressional district. I think they probably feel like that's really far away and they have really different interests. And so, but this is the kind of stuff we're seeing where they're just blatantly disrespecting communities and what people actually have in common and how they want to be represented. Right. Again, ignoring public testimony. We talked about this. I talked about this, this example of the Sandhills district. Many people asked for a Sandhills district, a Sandhills congressional district. Sandhills area has enough people to support a congressional district. It makes sense. I'm actually from there. I'm from Southern Pines. I'm from Moore County. I always thought it was really weird that we had these congressional districts that went all the way to suburban, Charlotte areas, because when I was a kid, we never went out there. We didn't even know where it was or who lived there. We had very different interests. The people that I knew when I was a kid lived in Lee County or lived in Fayetteville, or I had friends who lived in Lumberton. That's the community that people see who actually live in this region. But for a really long time, it's obviously been split up into these really strange areas, into these really strange districts. So people there asked, we want to see a congressional district that has Cumberland County, Hope County, Robeson County, Moore County together in one distinct congressional district that represents the Sandhills. We want to have a Congress member who has to actually live here, who actually has to represent us instead of being represented by someone who lives in Charlotte. They have not done that. So all of the maps that we've seen from committee chairs have split up this area, have not created a Sandhills district. As you can see, this sort of Sandhills area is being split into 3 different districts here. Fayetteville is going, into one district that goes, goes far west, touching on Cabarrus County. And then the other half of Cumberland County is in a district that actually goes all the way down to New Hanover County. The part of Moore County that I'm from is cut out of the rest of that county and put with another district that goes into the Charlotte suburbs, clearly just not respecting what people have actually asked for. And then manipulating maps for a partisan advantage. So just looking at all of the congressional maps that we have seen from committee chairs, all of the maps we've seen create either 9, 10, or even 12 Republican districts. We know we live in a 50-50 state. 9 out of 14 is not 50%. And so clearly they are doing something very intentionally to manipulate the maps in favor of Republicans. And we don't believe that that's reflective of what the state is actually like. Next slide. Okay, so someone was asking, and I think we saw a little bit of it earlier, where's that Tim Moore district? Well, this is the Tim Moore district. We have a district that looks very much like this in all of the congressional maps that have been proposed by chairs. So instead of putting the new congressional district somewhere where the highest population has been, we have a new congressional district that's centered on Cleveland County, which again, Cleveland County lost population, but somehow it gets its own new district because Tim Moore happens to live there and Tim Moore wants to run for Congress, we have heard. And therefore they're being so nice to him. They're giving him exactly what he wants and not exactly what the people in the state actually need. All right. Okay. Legislative maps. So that was a lot about congressional maps because we've had a little bit more time to sit with the congressional maps. But we will be showing you some legislative maps now, and we will have in the drive all of the legislative maps that are relevant to your area will be in there. You will be able to look at and see them. And so like Bree said, just before I go into this, I do want to say, I actually think it may be the congressional maps, it's very obvious what's wrong with them. The state legislative maps, it's a little bit harder unless you actually live there. And that's what we're relying on you for, to give that kind of input that we can't have from just looking at the maps because we don't live in your community. We don't know what that map is doing to your community because we don't know it on the level that you do. And so, legislative maps determine our legislature, and our legislature determines things like whether we have clean air and water, whether we expand Medicaid, whether we do, whether we fund our schools sufficiently, all kinds of really essential things that affect you on a day-to-day level. I would say even more than say our Congress members do. So I would really encourage you again to spend some good time with these maps and try to incorporate them into whatever comment you have. And so, this is one example that we've seen of sort of the partisan manipulation happening. This is from the House map. This is the House map that was proposed by Committee Chair Justin Hall. And basically we see that, there's a county cluster here, which includes Chatham, Randolph, Lee, Moore, and Richmond counties. And so we have Chatham County. Chatham County has to add a little bit of population, but not very much. And yet they've added a bunch of chunks from Randolph County, as you can see. It's kind of strange, actually, because this creates a situation where this Chatham district is very overpopulated. So in state legislative districts, there's sort of an ideal population, and the district can fall anywhere plus or minus 5% on either side of that ideal population. This Chatham district, because those Randolph precincts have been added, is very, very close to 5% over. I think it's something like 4.82% over ideal population. So just under what's permissible, just within what's permissible. Why are they doing that? Well, I mean, we've done some analysis, and our mapping people have done some analysis, and it's really clear that you're creating the situation where you have this very overpopulated Chatham district. All the other districts in this cluster are underpopulated. But because you've done this, you've actually turned this Chatham district, which was, by nature, a pretty Democratic district, into a competitive district that is much more easy for a Republican to possibly win by adding those precincts that are in Randolph that you actually didn't need for population reasons, but basically manipulating sort of the partisan lean of that county, even though I would say, I'm not sure, I'm sure there are a lot of people in Chatham County here, you can tell us, do those precincts in Randolph County have anything to do with where you live? Are they similar to where you live? Should they be included? They're not really necessary for population reasons. So it seems to be an instance of where they are manipulating that district that's been traditionally held by a Democrat to make it more possible for a Republican to run and win there by including, even though by doing that, you're creating a situation where you have one district that's quite close to being over the limit of population and a bunch of other districts that are, much lower than they could be. All right. And then this is another example, right? Cumberland County. So in Cumberland County here in the Senate map, you can see basically Fayetteville is being cut out of the county. Fayetteville is being cut out and separated. And in the past, we've seen a lot in previous litigation. We've seen districts that are somewhat similar to this, which kind of isolate Fayetteville from the rest of the county and in such a particular way. So in the 2017 case, there was a district that isolated Fayetteville in this way, in a way that was found to be a racial gerrymander. So we've seen some districts that cut up Cumberland County in this way that have been racial gerrymanders, that were doing something sort of similar in terms of targeting Fayetteville in specifically and taking it out of the rest of the county in this very, very targeted manner. And so we see I think that we're going to have to get some more analysis, but it looks very, very similar. And it's clearly, if nothing else, trying to reduce the influence of that urban area on any other parts of the county.
So Leica, can we take a minute and answer a question? Patience put a question in the chat that I think other folks might be wondering about as well. She says the plus or minus 5% of ideal size rule for the legislative districts is unfair. All of the North Carolina House districts in Durham, which is predominantly Democratic, are close to 5% over ideal size, which dilutes the votes of people in Durham. Is that a worthwhile comment, given that they are allowed to vary the size by this amount?
So I think that this is sort of a complicated legal question that I probably don't have a detailed knowledge of. However, what I will say is that that deviation was given to us in a North Carolina state court case. I think that if you believe that that is happening where you live, I think that you should definitely try to comment on stuff that's geographically specific as well. But I think that that is a fair thing to note because, like we've seen in that Chatham County example, that is something that can be done, is that those deviations can be taken advantage of to manipulate the maps in a lot of different ways. And so what I would say is just, I think it actually may be worthwhile to note. What I would say is I would prioritize making sure that you have something geographically specific about the district itself in there. But I do think that that's a worthwhile thing to note because it is something that, like you said, you feel dilutes your vote.
Great. So there were a lot of comments. I appreciate and questions in the chat. It was moving very fast. And there's a lot of people here, which is awesome. I think we're gonna go ahead and go into the breakouts because we did a similar meeting to this on Thursday and that people really got a lot out of the breakouts. We're gonna share a link to a Google Drive. So this is a little bit different for people that were here on Thursday. We had a document. We're gonna try it this way this time. If you felt the document was more useful, let us know and we'll try to put one together. But I'm going to drop a link in the chat to a Google Drive, and then I'm going to open the breakout rooms. I'll go ahead and do that. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, let me do this. Okay, so here's how the breakout rooms are going to work. We're going to let y'all sort of self-select into a breakout room. I tried to create breakouts that are reflective of who's here so that you don't have too many people in the breakout, but you got some other people from your general region, or because there are a lot of folks on the call from the triangle, we've got a couple of different options for triangle folks. And if you feel like you get somewhere and like you need a different breakout, or you need like a subset to go to another breakout, you should be able to let us know, to ping us and let us know. But here's what we want you to do in the breakouts. This is an opportunity to look at the maps for your region, your city, what have you, with other folks who also live there, and think about how they look. Like, do they make sense? What's going on with them? Talk to each other. If you can identify someone to take notes, if someone's willing to take notes, like in a Google Doc or a Word doc, we will share those out in the follow-up email, which could be helpful to other folks who couldn't be here, or just so that everybody has notes from what was talked about. So identify a note taker in your group. Look at the maps in your, I just shared a Google Drive link. We'll share it again. The maps are divided up by region, so you'll be able to look at the congressional maps, the state Senate maps, and the state House maps for your region. I will say that we've only got the maps in there, the congressional maps that were drawn by the Republican chairs, because we think that those are the ones that are likely to be voted on. There were some maps that were drawn by Democrats. We don't think those are going to be likely to be actually proposed and get a vote, because the Republicans are in charge. So we want people to comment on the maps that we think are likely to get proposed. So that's what's in there. And just look at the maps, look at the congressional and the legislative maps, and think about, what concerns can you identify? How would these maps impact your community? Do they make sense? Do they divide a community of interest? Do they divide a neighborhood? The sorts of things to be thinking about. And Leica and I will pop into different rooms through over the next little while and try to help, try to just see what folks are talking about, answer questions you may have. And I think we're gonna, so we're at 2:42. This meeting was scheduled to go until 4. Folks in our previous breakouts had some really robust conversations. So what do you think? Should we say 30 minutes for breakouts?
I think let's start giving people 20 minutes, and we'll pop into some groups and see how things are going. And if people still feel like they're going, then we'll tell you all that you're going to have more time. We'll tell you when you're kind of winding up, or how much time we're going to give you, if we have to extend beyond that 20 minutes. The other thing I do want to say, Bree, really quickly, if you go into that map drive and you go to your region, like we said, there are 3 different congressional maps that are going to be in there. All of the maps have these really kind of weird names that are just a bunch of letters and numbers. And so I've tried to label those. I think some of them still need to be renamed, but any map that starts with a C is a congressional map. The map that starts where that letter number starts with an H is a House map. Any map that starts with an S is a state Senate map. And most of those are labeled, but I didn't have time to rename all of them. If you have questions, we will kind of pop around to the groups and hopefully be able to answer anything.
Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms now. This took a little bit of time last time to get people into their rooms. So you should now have a pop-up. If anybody wants to unmute and say where you're seeing this pop up on your screen, so folks know where to look for it, because there are a lot of people here. If you don't see a place to join in your Zoom, it may be in the little bar if you look for breakouts. And
it's on the lower right on my screen.
On the lower right of the screen, there's a little place to let you join. If you're not seeing that, you can put in the chat where you live, and I will put you in your appropriate room. I think, Karen, there should just be I don't know what it looks like. Karen's saying, I see the list. How do you join?
Yeah, so if you scroll down to the where it says what the name of the group is, and there's a number there. If you go mouse over the number, it should give you a join button. I hope that makes sense.
Say that again.
So if you see the breakout rooms list, you'll see that their breakout rooms are labeled mountains, Charlotte Metro, etc. So if you see that name of the breakout group, say I'm looking at triad 1 right now, 12 people are in there. If I move my mouse over the number of people, there will be it'll turn into a button that says join, and that's how you go into that group. And if you're still having trouble, like Bree said, put your name in the chat and say which group you want to join, and we will try to put you in there.
Leica, will you drop the into the chat again? Will you drop the link to the Google Drive? Amy, Robeson County, go to Eastern North Carolina.
Where do you put the Sandhills?
Sandhills, Eastern North Carolina. If we need to do another breakout for Sandhills, I can do that. And Denise, Chatham, I think you should have a pop-up because I just put you in Chatham. You should have an invite.
Question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
I'm in Wayne County. I'm Mary Ann Turlington. Which one should I be joining?
You should go to Eastern North Carolina. I will assign you there.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Let's see. Bob in Brunswick County, you should, I think it's up to you whether you would it would make more sense. I would say probably Wilmington, but it's whatever makes more sense to you, I think. Okay, if you're on the iPad and you don't see rooms, and Denise keeps getting cut off. All right, Denise, I'm going to try and do it again to Chatham. See if you can.
Hi, I'm on an iPad and I can't figure out where to go.
Well, what area are you in? And we can just put you there.
Charlotte, North Carolina, metro area.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
Same thing. I'm on an iPad. I'm in Haywood County,
Okay, great.
and so I need help there.
Yes.
And I'm on an iPad and I'm in Chatham. And
Carol, is that you, Carol?
it is, yes.
Yeah.
Dina, I just invited you to the Durham Orange one. Sorry, Andrew, I got you now.
Got
You're
it,
going
thank
to
you.
Durham.
All right. Anyone else need us to assign them to a room? You can put that in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and tell us.
Yes, Yvette, that's the triad. I'll put you there. Anybody who's still in this room want to be in a chat room? In a breakout room, I mean.
Susan Sunflower, Transylvania. I can get the maps, but I can't get into the chat. I can't find the chat.
Okay.
It's okay. I think
I just got invited.
There you
Great.
go.
Oh, Mary keeps trying to enter and I don't know what's going on with her.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Leica, do you want to start moving around? I don't know whether I should wait here or go join some chat rooms.
Yeah, you can wait here. I'll go ahead and join some places.
Okay. Okay, Barbara. Oh, it looks like you're in there. I got you, Tony. Just a second. Hey, Bob, are you waiting to be put in a room? Bob Bannerman? If you're muted, I can't hear you. Are you able to unmute? Let me see if I can unmute you. Hey, Isabel, we're in breakout rooms. Do you want me to add you to the Durham Chapel Hill group or the Chatham group?
Sorry. Sorry I'm late. I had other plans. Can just join now. How are you?
That's okay. I'm glad you're here. I'm good. I'm
Jeez.
here and happy to see all these people here.
Put me wherever you, how long is the breakout? Are the breakout?
We said
groups?
20 minutes and that was probably 6-7 minutes
Oh,
ago.
so put me wherever you think I would be. You know, I live in Orange County. I work in Durham County. I'm happy to be an activist in Chatham County, wherever you think is best, or some far off county. I don't care, whatever you think.
All right. All right. Let's see what's Denise here. So Barbara, I'm gonna put you in Eastern North Carolina group. Isabel, I'll put you in the Durham Orange one.
Cool.
And Denise. You here, Denise? I'm gonna try again to put you in Chatham, Denise. Oh, there you are. Let's see if you. Denise, can you unmute and tell me what's going on? Are you not able to get in the Chatham group?
No, I got in and I just keep getting knocked out. I don't know if it's the internet or what it is.
Oh, it's the Zoom.
It's a decent group though. It's a pretty decent group.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good size. Looks like lots of people from Chatham here.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to go? You want me to try to put you back in, or do you want to hang out here?
Yeah, put me back in. I want to hear what they're saying.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. See you soon. Okay, and Harlow, I see you there. If you want to unmute and tell me where you'd like to be or put it in the chat, I'll do my best to get you there. Bob, if you're talking, I can't hear you. Can you put it in the chat? There's a chat button at the bottom of your screen. Or a little chat. If you click on that, you should be able to type in. Which part of the state you're in, and I'll put you in the right room. Let's see if I can lip read you, Bob. I know Zoom can be so frustrating. Can you write it on a piece of paper and hold it up? If you're watching this later on Facebook Live, you're just going to want to fast forward through this part. We haven't figured out how to get the Facebook Live in breakout rooms yet. Yeah, Bob, it looks like your audio is not connected to the Zoom. So that's why I can't hear you. You don't have a microphone icon here. It's part of the problem. Leica, where have you been? Which groups have you gone to?
I've been to Wilmington, Charlotte Metro, and Wake County.
Okay. How are they going? What do you think is the
They're still going. So like, I don't think anyone's slowed down yet. So I'll
good?
hop
Okay.
some more and get a sense.
Okay, cool.
Anything else you need me to do?
Tyler had asked if you go to the triad one, will you just check and see if they figured out the note taking? Tyler had asked me to like share everybody or share them on a Google Doc. I told him that if someone there could just start one, that would be the easiest thing.
Okay, I'll go to the triad and see how they're doing.
All right, cool. Thanks.
No problem.
Bob, do you see the little chat box at the bottom of your screen? And Kate, I see you there. Are you wanting to be in a breakout room?
Hi, Bree.
Hey.
I'm actually in New Jersey right now. My mother-in-law's in the hospital and I'm here with her. So I was just kind of, I'm not going to be in a breakout room. I'm too
Okay.
distracted and I've been kind of following along, but I'm going to have to go back and follow it on Facebook.
Okay. I'm sorry to
Probably
hear
go
that.
back and review the whole thing on Facebook because I've been kind of in and out.
Totally understand. Okay. Just wanted to check in.
Thanks for asking,
I
though.
hope everything's okay with her.
Triad seems to be doing well.
Have you been to Eastern North Carolina?
No, not yet. I'll go there next. They seem to be doing fine. So I think the only ones I haven't been to now are Durham, Orange, Chatham, and Mountains.
It's been about 20 minutes. Should we, it seem like people are still having pretty robust conversation?
Yeah, it seems like they're, I mean, it seems like they're still going as far as I can tell. So I'll keep hopping around until I feel like people are starting to slow down.
Okay. I can't really hear you.
You know, we were talking earlier about that Chatham district. You said that
Yeah.
Daniel looked at that, and did he send a message to you, or is that in a document somewhere? Basically the people from Chatham were wondering, you know, like whether or not you could just put one of those precincts back and they would still meet population levels. And I think that that's what Daniel said, but I don't remember where that's written down.
Yeah, it was in an email.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it. Do you need it right now, or do you need it for do they need it, or?
I told them when they come back to the main group, bring it up and we will try to remember to actually chase that down for them.
Okay. Let's see, where am I?
Oh yeah, I see this.
You were copied on that email, right?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. It's like
Yeah.
there's like 3,500 people in the precinct. And the one next to it is underpopulated.
Okay, so yeah, Daniel put together all the numbers.
Yeah. And I sent that to Becca.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
numbers so that
Okay, so she has
know.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they were just saying that they wanted to, you know, have the numbers in front of them so that they could be sure.
Right. Well, it's 3:14. Should I give people like a 5-minute warning and tell them they can go ahead and start coming back if they're wrapping up, or?
Let me
We've got
check on
time.
let me check on one more group really quickly and then I'll come right back and see.
Okay. Mary, you made it. Mary, folks are in breakouts right now. If you want to unmute and let me know where you are, we're in regional breakouts. So folks are looking at their maps for their region. I can put you in the breakout. We're gonna probably be wrapping them up in the next few minutes. Or you can just hang out here and we'll bring everybody back in a few minutes.
Bree, may I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is there a place to see the previous, the current maps and compare them to these redrawn maps?
Yeah, so the NC Ledge website is ncledge.gov, and there's a redistricting tab. I'll find the link for you.
Thank you.
There's a redistricting tab. It's everything on there. It's actually a pretty good website, but you do have to sometimes for the map stuff, like dig a little bit to find it.
Yeah.
Okay. But let me see, I'll just go to it real quick. And yeah, so there's a redistricting tab that if you click on that, you've got the stuff about the current redistricting. And then there's the next little section down is district plans from previous years. And you can look at maps from multiple previous years.
Thank you. That would be really, really helpful.
Yeah. The only thing to keep in mind is that like the some of the changes are because population changed. So just because, just because it changed doesn't necessarily mean that there's something like nefarious going on. But for looking back it might be interesting to look back and see kind of, what they did in 2011 and then how it changed based on court order and how that relates to what they're doing now. But, or the current maps and that were drawn by court order. Okay, we're gonna. So which group were you in, Christine?
I was with the Orange and Durham County
Orange County. Okay.
group, and there's lots and lots and lots of discussion, but there was some information that I felt would be helpful.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to pull people back in a minute. Laika was just going to check in on one more room. It seemed like a lot of people were having a lot of good discussion. We didn't want to shut it down prematurely. Do you want me to put you back in, or do you want to just hang out till everybody comes back?
No, I'll just hang out here. Thank you.
Okay. Mary? Hey, Mary. I'm glad you made it in. All right. All right, Leica, I'm gonna bring people back, okay? Well, Mary, I'm glad you're here. We are bringing people back from breakout rooms now. It sounds like your internet might not be we're not hearing you very well. I'm gonna mute you, but if you can find the chat and you want to put anything in. You're breaking up a little bit. There you go. Okay. All right, we've got folks coming back. Welcome. How's the screen look like it is? Like, is it cut off weird or anything? You're
It's a
muted.
little bit cut off on the bottom. Not sure why.
It's probably because that's how it looks on my computer. Okay. All right, we got folks coming back. I think everybody's back. Great. All right, so we want to hear a little bit, if anybody from different rooms, if y'all had a note taker, or if there's anyone just like kind of a quick debrief about what y'all talked about, if there were any particular, like, you know, things that were raised in the groups that we want to lift into the whole group space. So if is there someone from
I'll start. I'm from
Great.
Durham. And this is this is all new to me. And my church, we decided that we were going to investigate. And then all of a sudden, it just became bigger than anything that we could even imagine. And so I appreciate everybody here. You're teaching me a lot. I'm a retired teacher. I can learn anything, but this is overwhelming, and I'm not originally from here. So the counties are just I know where Durham is, I know where Wake is, I know where, so I'm challenged. So I'll go ahead with that. Knowing all of that, I'll go ahead. And what we discovered was that there is already at 5%, Durham is at 5%. Durham is split up into 3 quadrants, and it looks like there's such a separation between urban Durham and further north all the way to the Virginia line. There's just such a it's a quagmire, because there's a lot of area north of Durham, but the area of Durham is split up in 3 different pieces. So it just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't seem fair. And that was looking at what, District 18 and 19?
So the House.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, ultimately, it's just that Durham is being split up. And even though we're going to still have 4 representatives, it may not look the way that it used to look with those 4 representatives. Okay, that's all I have.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing that out, and hopefully that was helpful for folks in Durham to start thinking about too. I know I haven't spent as much time. Look, I'm in Durham and I haven't spent as much time as I meant to looking at those districts. So that definitely gives me something to look at and think about. Christy, I see your hand. Do you want to talk about the Mecklenburg group?
Yeah, one of the things that we had brought up, which I think is great for folks who are not like me and who don't have their district in every precinct memorized, which is what is there someone that can provide information for folks in other districts, specifically about the state house and state senate, that show them like which one has been racially, which precinct has been racially divided, or which, district has been partisan, divided, for folks who don't have their, their own district memorized by their precincts. Is there any information for those folks? Yeah, which is most people, right?
Most people, anyone who hasn't run for office, probably.
Yeah. Like if you haven't actually had to be responsible for all of those people, then you don't have it memorized. Is there any information or resources for folks like that?
So we don't have that, but I know that that those maps have been put into like Dave's redistricting by a lot of different people, and Dave's redistricting does have partisan data and racial data in it, so people can look at that to find that out. I believe that Common Cause has uploaded those maps in there, and so they've shared that on their social media if you all want to look in more depth and see some of those numbers.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
For them.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone from that area, Christy, I don't know if you do, or if someone else from the group wants to just talk through like anything that you did make note of that you want to share with everyone.
One of the things, of course, that is for the U.S. House maps is, as I think everyone noticed, is that Mecklenburg County they're trying to like dissect it as much as possible to dilute the votes here, and so that's something we wanted to focus on, is the not combining the city center of Charlotte with a rural county, or is that map that's been drawn for Tim Moore, like it doesn't make sense to the suburban area to be combined with a very rural area. We have wildly different needs. So that was something that came up, but mainly the folks in the group wanted to know really specifics about what they could say and have talking points, so that what they say is the most impactful when or if things need to be used in a court case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one thing I do want to touch on is we've seen 3 congressional maps. All of them split Mecklenburg at least 3 ways. One of them splits Mecklenburg 4 ways. I think some people I've heard have said that they think that the 4-way Mecklenburg split might be sort of out there as a distraction, so that everyone focuses on that and doesn't make comments about the other versions of the splits. I think that that's totally plausible considering what we've seen from people in our legislature in the past. So I would want people to kind of keep that in mind. And then I think as far as, I think that our general talking points are just about how areas like that are basically being split up and paired with rural areas. I know that, if you can get into something like Dave's, you can kind of get down on a more specific level and look at some of that. If you want to look at partisan or racial information, that's going to be in there. But the thing that we are hoping also that, you might also have a sense of that we may not, is just, hopefully with the versions of the maps we've given you, you can at least kind of orient yourself and see where you live. And maybe you can, maybe you have some more specific thoughts about that. But yeah, I mean, I think that we're mostly talking about it in these more general terms because we're looking to you all for the specifics.
So I think that's the same sort of thing that was going on in Durham. Sure, there are still 4 representatives, but it's how they're dividing the county and coupling it with either another county or redividing the turf that's very subtle and profound at the same time.
Isabel, don't you mean that especially District 51, the House district, it takes in Person County, and that the Blacks in that part of North Durham are going to be diluted by people?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being more specific, Susan.
That's okay. I'd like to say one thing about Orange County, if I may. And that is, it looks like Greg Meyer's district. I mean, I have not looked specifically, but it looks like it's pretty much the same. He had Caswell before. He was able to win Caswell and Orange. And then Verla Insco was the city of Chapel Hill, and she was able to win. It looks like that's pretty much the same, although I'm not sure. The problem with the North Carolina Senate map is that it takes away Chatham County from Valerie Fouché, our senator, and it puts her with Caswell and Person and parts of Orange County. And so that could mess her up. I mean, they're trying to screw with her. So that's all I have to say about Orange County. Oh, well, actually, one more thing. With the congressional maps, they have put my district in part of Wake County, and that is wrong. And that Wake County needs to be divided into 2 instead of 3. And they're diluting the urban votes by doing that.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel like we're kind of going backwards. So I used to live in Chapel Hill before I came to move to Raleigh.
It's almost over. Yeah, you're fine.
I ended up moving from Chapel Hill to Raleigh and staying in District 4 because of the way that they had drawn it, which is to me reminiscent of what they're trying to do this time.
Exactly. It's the poster child for gerrymandering.
Yeah.
One of them.
I see a hand from Emily. Do you want to talk about the Eastern North Carolina group, or does someone else, is someone planning to talk about that?
Well, I have
What were you
a
gonna say?
question
Sorry.
about a question about what we talked about. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, so there were multiple congressional districts in our group, so it was a little difficult. But in Butterfield's district, congressional 1, he is excluded from his home county in one of those. So is he able to still run? I mean, that's tremendous effect, I would think.
Yeah, technically congressional members of Congress don't have to live in their districts. However, it's very uncommon for them not to live in their districts.
Yeah.
And so, on some theoretical level, he could, but I think that there's clearly, it seems like in those cases, they are trying to exclude him from his historical district.
And it sounds like a cry at a rally. He doesn't even live in your district.
Exactly. It'll go over well.
Thanks for that, Emily.
Yeah, anybody else want to comment from that?
Anybody
group?
else in the Eastern North Carolina group want to, or is there anything else that you'd want to lift up?
Helen Probst Mills brought up an important point. Helen, are you still on?
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm here. My internet is going in and out, so I've turned off my picture. The joys of living in really beautiful rural North Carolina, but we do need better broadband.
I can hear you now.
Oh, great. But if I put my video on, I'll cut out, so I'll leave my video off. Apologies. One of the things, and I know this is a little bit of an interesting quirk on it, but I think it might be something that resonates with a lot of citizens in North Carolina. Many of you know that I ran for state senate in 2018 and 2020. I live in Moore County. Moore County on the state senate side looks like it'll be joined with the part of Cumberland that doesn't include Fayetteville, which is being carved out for Democrat Kirk Deviere. So the incumbent who I ran against used to live in Richmond County. That's where his family farm is. He goes back generations. Lo and behold, we found out this week that he's now bought a home here in Moore County, because of course, for the legislative seats in North Carolina, you need to actually live within the district lines. I think that's an important piece of information. I have to believe that there are a lot of incumbents, Republicans across the state, are either making sure that their homes are included or are contemplating whether or not it's possible for them to move to, maybe they had a beach house or something like that. He's not bought a big place. It's only got 2 bedrooms. So the man certainly has more money than that. He walks around in snakeskin boots. But it's not huge, but I don't wonder if it's not emblematic of the lack of playing by the rules, the lack of fairness, the gamesmanship involved in all of this, that's okay. We're going to figure out how to make this work no matter what. And I'm going to buy a piece of property so that I can live here for the year prior to the next election day in order to justify my residency. And you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And I'm not, you can buy property wherever he wants. I'm not objecting to that. But I do think the average North Carolinian citizen would be really interested to know, how many of these Republican incumbents have actually done that in order to be within the lines of what it is that they're going to end up with? I don't know who might want to spearhead something like that and what that looks like, but it's a soundbite and it's a piece that I think most North Carolinians would be annoyed with.
Helen, that's so interesting. And I think that this is another one of those cases where I feel like we're really relying on people like you who are kind of in the know in the local area, because that probably wouldn't be something that we would actually find out in an official way until until candidate filing or something like that. Like it probably wouldn't make the news until that point in time. But people in the area may already know that stuff like that is happening.
Yeah, it's a really good flag.
Maybe you could think about sending it out to your membership across the state, because I can't believe he's the only one.
Oh yeah, I think you're probably right about that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I see, Bill, I see your hand. Is there anything else from Eastern North Carolina before we go over to Bill? If people want to lift into the space.
I just want to make a comment. We have so many military installations here. How do we reach out to the people on these bases?
I don't think, I don't think that we've had like a specific outreach to people who are on, the military bases like at Fort Bragg or Camp Lejeune or anything like that. I don't think we have done that specific outreach. I think if people, who have connection to those communities have some ideas, we are really happy to help make that happen. But I don't think that we've really done that. So
well, I'm a military spouse and I was just on Goldsboro. So I'd be happy to try and put something in the military newspapers that are free on the basis.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be great.
I'll need your help with that. I'll write something and maybe you can edit it. Okay.
Yeah, Brenda, just let us know.
All right.
Thanks, Dr. Fairfax. Bill, do you want to unmute?
Yes. Do we have a list of like basic things like we disagreed on, like breaking up the precincts? Do we have a list of precincts that have been split in the state of North Carolina? That would be a strong, specific argument to wage. In our group, someone mentioned in Eastern Mecklenburg. There's a precinct split up.
I'll have to look specifically. I do believe that there are some reports that have come along with these maps. So if you go to say, I know this is not the easiest thing, and I'll try to share this in the chat in a minute, but if you go to the Senate committee sites and the House committee site on the NCLEG website, there are stat packs in those proposed map folders. And I know they at least have the numbers of split precincts per county. I don't know if they fully list the split precincts themselves, but they may. And I do wonder if that's another thing that you could also find in, the maps, versions of the maps that have been uploaded to Dave's.
And a couple other things. So someone mentioned in the comments, we thought this meeting was to specifically talk about different areas. The approach I'm seeing is we're brainstorming with people in our areas. When leaving this meeting, do we need to make phone calls to our local Mecklenburg County or whatever county you live in, Democratic Party or the state party for these specific arguments to be waged? Or are we grassroots bootstrapping, looking at statistics and within 48 hours speaking at it?
I feel you, because it's not sufficient time. And, I think that we also feel like we wish we could give you a much, much more robust analysis, but, we have not been given a whole lot of time. But I would say that if you want to reach out to, say, your local county parties or something like that, and ask them if they have talking points that you would want to share, I think that that's, it's very likely that they probably have a sense of what they are thinking should, go into these maps. So I think that would make sense. But I think from our end, at All in the Line, we really are, it's more of a grassroots effort. We really are, kind of looking to you all to help us figure out how we should respond to some of these areas. We really are looking to you all to take the lead on some things. Like I said, we looked at the congressional maps, and I think we have a sort of decent general analysis of them, but as for the particulars and what might make sense to your community, we are looking to you all.
And this is not the only group that's meeting today to discuss this. I know Roar is meeting in Raleigh. There are, other folks who are, so I don't think we should feel like, oh my God, we're the only game in town doing this. I mean, I think this is a really important game in town. And I think there are other folks who are meeting to strategize as well.
Yeah, there's actually another meeting at 4, right after this one, that another coalition of organizations is putting on. And that's absolutely right. And I would say, just to answer a little bit more explicitly Bill's question, if you are a part of your local party or you are a part of a local organization and there are people who are politically engaged there, and you can reach out and share our tools or your own information and help people understand what's going on. I mean, a lot of the problem here is just getting the word out, because people don't know these hearings are happening and that this is all going to happen next week. So any organizing that you feel like you have the capacity to do, you should do, and let us know how we can support it. But yeah, I think that we need to be doing as much outreach as we can in letting people know what's going on. I see Angela's hand, and then we will go over to the other groups if there are other groups that would want to just give us a debrief on what was shared in their breakout.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it turns out that even if we signed up to speak, John was mentioning that they're limiting the number of speakers both on the virtual and in the in-person. So does it make sense then to, if we reach out to other people and organize to say, no matter what, post a comment, I guess, on the,
Yes, post a comment. And also, we are really advocating people show up at the hearings. If you write a comment and post it online and you have the ability to go to a hearing in person, go, because it will be important for them to see how many people wanted to speak and weren't able to because of those limits.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we know that they are scared to hear from you all. We can tell because they've limited so severely the amount of people who are allowed to comment. They've given us so little time to prepare. They really are scared of hearing from the public. And I think that if we can show that a lot of people are passionate about this issue, that they're showing up, that they're being shut out of the process, that's something that makes a huge statement. That's something that press will pick up on. It's a really, really important sign that what they're doing is wrong and that they are scared.
In those pre-map hearings, overwhelmingly people were asking them to not do partisan gerrymandering. They were asking for very specific things that they clearly explicitly ignored, like a Sandhills congressional district. So, they're trying to make it seem like they're allowing a transparent process, but actually really limit it. And so, yes, absolutely let people know to comment online. Everyone should put their comments online because that is one way to make sure that they are in the public record. And then if you can show up, whether you get a spot to speak or not, please do.
Bree, didn't you send out a link last night?
There's an email on Friday that had links to sign up.
No, but I think I got something, rapid response hearing from All on the Line last night.
Yeah, I think there was another email last night.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it wasn't spam.
Does anyone from the I see a hand.
Here's my hand. My hand is speaking.
Great. What does your
I'm
hand wanna
John.
say?
I'm John from the Chatham bunch.
Oh, great.
And this was, we focused mostly on the state rep issue that we have. On the one hand, they made Chatham whole. We're not split into anybody else's representative district, but in order to have enough people, they needed to stitch on a couple of precincts in a neighboring county. And so they stitched on a couple of three precincts from Randolph County, but we only need 2 to make the size thing. But they threw an extra 3,000 Republicans in just for the heck of it. And we decided that since the strongest argument is the data argument. We need to have the data, obviously. So I'm not sure exactly the best way to go about getting that, but basically the argument we have is that Chatham is can be its own district with 2 precincts from Randolph to give us the sufficient amount, and that we would love not having that 3rd precinct and give it back to one of the neighboring districts that is actually under. So it's a fairly straightforward data argument. And so we feel pretty, we feel like we could make that pretty straightforwardly. And as long as we're not incorrect.
Yeah. So I think that Bree and I talked about this, and someone did check up on this. And yes, it's a situation where that particular precinct, I think Providence, is not necessary. It creates a situation where that Chatham Randolph district is, like I think I was saying to you, it's 4.82% above ideal population. And all of the other districts in that grouping are well under populated. So they're anywhere from 4.52 under ideal population to 2.6% under ideal population. So clearly what's going on there is something that's not necessary for population reasons.
Right. So we feel like that's a strong argument.
Yeah, I think
and from not only from a data point of view, but also from a community point of view. So as long as the numbers are correct, then we have a carpool of 6 people going over there, and all of us get to speak, or hope we can speak. And so 6 of us would be saying the same thing, one right after another. And I think that would be pretty strong.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's one of those situations where I think people from the area have really spotted something obviously wrong that's going on, and it's very, very clear from the numbers what's happening.
All righty then.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And John, I'll find the data for you, like the breakdown of how many people are in each of those districts, and send it to you.
Great.
Okay, there's questions in the chat. I want to give opportunity for for any other, I think Triad hasn't spoken yet, and also Wilmington. And if there's any other breakouts that haven't had a chance to share, I'd love to hear from y'all.
Yeah, this is Chris Malone from Triad. I took some notes during our breakout.
In Western.
I have notes on 4 different maps that we looked at. I'll write these notes up in Google Doc, and you may just post them on in that Google Docs share location, or.
Yeah, you could do that, or you can email them to me.
Okay. The congressional CBK3 Triad region map. We talked about Guilford County. It's drawn to split urban areas and lump those in with rural areas. There are specific areas, Northeast High Point, South Greensboro, are split off from the central urban area. North Davidson is lumped in with districts much further south, all the way down to Mecklenburg County, which is well out of the Triad. Triad communities, in particular, Greensboro and High Point, are in separate districts. There's also a note about Jefferson 3 precinct should be kept part of the Greensboro district, not in Alamance County. And let's see, in one of the congressional CMT9 map, District 11, we noticed is not congruent or compact, in its routing into the South Forsyth County and Western Guilford. It looks very clearly gerrymandered to us. On one of the congressional CST2 map, the districts are not compact and split the triad into split triad communities into separate districts. We did look at one of the state maps, SST4, and we noticed that Greensboro is split into 3 different districts. 28, 27, and 26. Clearly, it looks that the southeast portion of Guilford County should belong to either District 27 and or 28, but not 26. It, clearly is trying to grab some areas to keep 26 in Republican control, and that is Berger's district, I believe. And what else? Kernersville, they noted should be part of the Winston-Salem District 31 on that particular state map. But that's all the notes that I made.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking notes. And I'm going to put my email in the chat. Would you just share me on that?
Absolutely, sure.
That would be great. And then we need to hear from Wilmington and also the mountains, the Western North Carolina group. So whoever's ready could unmute and share.
This is Bob Bannerman, and I'm from the Wilmington area. We had 3 different maps that we were looking at. The congressional map, it was one of the most obvious cases of gerrymandering. If you look at it, they just reached in and grabbed the core, a little chunk out of Wilmington, center of Wilmington, and moved it northwards into a rural area toward Jacksonville. And on the state Senate map and the state House map, it was interesting. They both feature a grab of part of New Hanover County combined with Brunswick County. The state Senate map comprises all of Brunswick County and a little finger of precinct or 2 pointing out into the heart of Wilmington, again to dilute some of the inner city vote there and bring it into a Republican county. On the House district map, a feature of the last go around is retained, the last go around of redistricting from the previous election cycle. And that was a redraw of Brunswick County and New Hanover County. They split Brunswick County in half in a very odd way. They reached up across the Cape Fear River, where only a ferry can cross, from Southport across to Carolina Beach, which is a suburb of Wilmington. And they are making that a new House district. Meanwhile, the rest of Brunswick County, including contiguous coastal areas that are now part of that New Hanover precinct, number 22, I think it is, or 21, are in a separate House legislative district. So there's an inconsistency in both the House and the Senate maps, the way they reached across into New Hanover. One reached across in the north from Leland into Wilmington, and that's the Senate map. The other reached across the Cape Fear River in the south to grab Carolina Beach and some contiguous areas there. So I had previously commented, I'm going to comment again this cycle, that the House legislative district simply makes no sense from a physical standpoint, because you don't take the ferry across the river to do business. Basically, these are areas that are not functionally contiguous. They are very disparate areas, and that map should be redrawn. So those were our comments. We're going to show up tomorrow in Wilmington and make kind of a concerted effort to have them take a look at that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bob, for sharing that out. And so glad to hear that folks are going to the hearing there. That's excellent news. Okay, I know we're kind of at time. I do want to hear from Western North Carolina. I understand if folks have to jump off, but I'd love to hear from the folks in the mountains. Thank you everyone who has to leave for being here. And if you want to stay on for a few minutes, we will have some next steps, but let's hear from Western North Carolina real quick.
I'm Brenda Murphy. I'm from the northern part of Buncombe County, and we did not have an official note taker in our group. So I will do a quick repeat from what I thought, and other people in the Western North Carolina group, please pipe up if I miss anything. The main thing that we looked at in the congressional map was the little finger in all three of the congressional maps that have been proposed. There's a little finger of Watauga County that is pulled out and thrown down into Virginia Fox's district. And we all agreed that was the one thing that we would comment on for the congressional maps. There's clearly no need to split out anything from Watauga County. And for people who are not from this area, this is a new addition to what has been the old Congressional District 11 of Western North Carolina. So they pulled in Watauga, but then they just cut out a little teeny portion and threw it into, I don't know what the old district number was there. They're now showing that on some of these maps as a District 9. So we're going to object to that. It seems like that's clearly done for protecting an incumbent or for partisan advantage so that Fox and Cawthorn would not run against each other. So that was the only thing there. And then we, in looking at the state Senate maps, the thing that was the most shocking to some of us was how a huge portion of Buncombe County has been carved out and thrown over into District 47, State Senate District 47, which is with McDowell and Burke. And there's no connection. I mean, just in terms of shared interest, it doesn't make any sense at all. So the new District 49, which had encompassed all of Buncombe County, it's now probably about 2/3 or a little less of the county. And the one thing that we felt weak on, and we pulled Leica in on this, but I don't feel real secure in knowing what the requirements are for population growth, for how much has to be cut out. We don't like the way in which it was cut, and we're definitely going to address that. Help me out, folks, from
The state legislative map, that the Buncombe County was cut up in a way that previously it was not cut up at all. And we are concerned about that. It is very partisan cutting up, and we're not sure. We're not sure of how to change it or how to talk about different lines, but we were worried about it.
And that was on the State House
Right.
map in Buncombe. So those were the key things. And there were a few other concerns in the way the state Senate map. It also chopped out a bit of, a couple of other counties, but again, we felt not real solid in terms of the population requirements, how things had to shift to know what we could address on those. So those were the main things that we covered. Anybody from our group have anything to add? Did I miss anything? Okay.
Okay. Well,
the one thing I want to say is just having been able to check on some of the stats from that state Senate map, both of those districts are somewhat underpopulated. So 47 is almost -4%, and 49 is -3.74%. So clearly there's room to really move that line and change that line and include different areas and exclude other areas. That there's a lot of flexibility there within, because it looks like they're both underpopulated to a similar degree. And so that sort of, I think, gives you a lot more freedom in how you can move. It's not like that 49th district is already so close to being overpopulated that you would have to give up a lot or anything like that. So that's the only thing I can say at this point. Again, like, I think like we've said to some other people, if you want to get in really in depth, it is, I think, worthwhile to get into something like Dave's where people have uploaded these maps and you can play around with it and see what line may be permissible that you think is better.
And I think on that note too, I mean, I don't know if John Lingle is still here. He was working on Dave's redistricting and might be willing to help folks get into that. If you are interested in getting into Dave's and like looking deeper into the data, I will ask him if he's available and still willing to help folks do that. You can just email me and let me know that that's what you're looking for, and we'll see. We'll do our best to get you with someone who can help navigate and get into Dave's.
And we also actually, Bree, the other thing that we have that we can share in emails, we also do have a Dave's redistricting tutorial that Daniel and I did. And we, you know, so that's something that we can also share just on the basics of how to use that program. And also where the files are for these maps so that you can upload them.
Can you send that to everybody who's on the call? Just those.
The Dave's tutorial, yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, and like the other thing I want to say is like, for like Brenda and other folks, if there are, you know, specific questions that you have that you are like, I need to know what this means, or like what line should be moved. If you want to send us an email, Leica and I are going to be fielding a lot of emails and trying to help a lot of folks write comments. But if you send us an email and ask us for what you need, we will do our best to get you the information that you need. We have resources that all on the line we can plug into, and we'll do our best. So go ahead and send the email, ask us for what you need, and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible with the information. Leica, someone sent me a question in the chat that I don't know the answer to, and I totally should, so I'm gonna ask you, because you might know. What are the initials on the map, the naming conventions for the maps? So like CSH.
So my understanding is that the first letter is whether it's Congressional, Senate, or House, that's C, S, or H. The other two initials, I think, are actually the initials of the staff member who started work on that map. That's what I believe is the case. That's what I think I heard. So it's like not very meaningful to people, to be honest. Like, I don't think most of us know the names of the legislative staff members, but I think that's where that comes from. And then the number is the number, like basically each time they work on the map, they make a new copy of it. And so the number is just sort of what copy they're on, pretty much.
I have a question of the Durham Chatham folks, please. Is there someone from the Durham Orange, excuse me, the Durham Orange group? Is there someone who's going to turn in notes to Bree and Leica from that group? Written notes?
So I took notes while people were talking, and I will share out what I took. It will be very rough. And if people send me an email with the notes that they took in the next like 2 hours, I will share it on the email, this post meeting email, the follow-up. I'll send whatever I've got in the follow-up email. Also, for folks who are still here, first of all, you all get a gold star for staying 8 minutes past time and being on a 2+ hour call. I'm going to put a link in the chat, and I'm also going to include this in the follow-up email. If you are going to come to a hearing in person, we would just love to know that, so that we can communicate with you, especially Leica and I are both going to be in Raleigh. And we would love to just make sure that we like connect with people who show up in person and get a sense of who's going to be at which hearing. It's not a big deal, but there is a form in there. If you're going to come to a hearing and you would be willing to fill that out and just let us know, that'd be helpful.
Is there a calendar for the hearings? Is there a Western hearing?
There is not. The Western hearing is in Caldwell County tomorrow.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah. But you should all, folks in the mountains, I think, should plan to just submit comments through the online portal. We may be in touch with y'all later about, and send them to me. If you write a comment into the portal and you'd be willing to send it to us, we just want to collect and know what people are saying. And we might want to use like a snippet of it in social media or something like that. So if you're willing to share it with me, so that we can share it out, and just know what people are asking for, please just send us your comments as well. But mostly make sure it gets into the portal. Yvette, yes.
Question. Where is the closest meeting to the Triad area? Like Winston-Salem? What's the?
There is not really a meeting there. Maybe the one in Charlotte.
Probably Charlotte.
Maybe the one in Caldwell. Like, I don't.
Or Raleigh. Probably
Yeah, Raleigh. Actually, Raleigh probably is the closest.
Okay. Okay.
Highly unfortunate.
Yeah,
to put it kindly. So but there are virtual hearings, and the links are on ncledge.gov, and we'll send out the links to sign up in the follow-up email. But yeah, I mean, the hearings are insufficient, to say the least. Yeah, it's upsetting. Okay, so to close out the meeting, please draft your comments. You can reach out to us if you need help in any way, and we'll do our very best to provide whatever support that you need to write a comment. Thank you everybody who was here. Thank you to everybody who's been like supporting folks in the chat. Shout out to Tyler, who's like answering questions and in the chat, and everyone who's helping folks in the chat. If you need to connect with someone else who was on the call, you can also email me if you weren't able to connect through direct message, and I'll try to connect you with people. I saw a couple of people who wanted to connect with John, and I'll check in with him and see if that's okay, and put y'all in touch. Yay, Tyler, thank you. Tyler's offering that folks in the Triad could connect with them if they need, if they want to need support on drafting comments there as well. Okay, I'm going to put my contact in the chat again, and you'll get an email from me that you can just reply to. Check your spam. Sometimes the emails that I send to like mass emails, I send to a lot of people, go to spam. Can't type anymore. Okay, my email is in the chat. Thank you again, everyone who is here. Thank you for making comments. Let us know how we can support, and hopefully we'll see you at a hearing. And also, if you go to a hearing, or let us know how things go. Stay in touch with us, and we'll be communicating through email and other ways as well.
Yeah, we will be in
throughout this
Raleigh both
process.
days. So if you happen to be there, please come and say hi.
Look out for, we'll probably be doing like recaps after the
Yeah.
hearings, and then we'll definitely circle up again once we're through the hearings. Once we know what when the vote schedule is going to be, we'll probably want to do some advocacy and communicate with our lawmakers before the votes. Not probably, definitely. So just keep an eye out for that, and thank you all for being here and for being with us through this very long session.
Well, thank you. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks
for
your
leadership.
Have a good rest of your Sunday, everyone.
Hey,
Bye, everybody.
So
much.
Appreciate
Great
you
work.
all.
Like just a quick question. When making comments for tomorrow, I'm assuming we should use those like CST like abbreviations to reference?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
only specific name we've been given for those maps. So that's really the only way you can make sure that they know which one you're talking about.
Okay, I thought that was the case, but just wanted to make sure there wasn't some secret hidden trapdoor.
No, we don't have any other name for them at this point.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hey,
You're welcome.
Tyler, Chris Malone, what's your email address?
I just sent it over to you, Chris.
Okay, let me look and make sure I got it. Let's see, got it, thank you.
Tyler, can you send it to me too? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry to keep everyone here for.
No, yeah, that's
Right.
fine. I'm glad. We're happy to keep this open for exchanges of contact information and connections. Thank you, Tyler, for being open
Thank
to
you for being
helping
so
folks.
helpful to everyone.
Yeah, of course. Did you get that, Yvette?
I did. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Mike and Bree.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone else
Thank you
too.
all. Oh, it's so nice to see people. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Barbara and Barbara.
Toodaloo.
All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Your hair looks nice, Bree.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.